Hey, I'm Anthony with ReadyComicsRoll, and joining me tonight, or I should say early this morning, since like 1:30, is Cody from Cody's Cosplay Carnival.
What's up?
And we just got back from seeing Sony's Venom.
I enjoyed it.
I mean, you kind of almost gave away your idea right off the bat, but
There you go. Thanks for joining us, guys.
but this right up front will be a spoiler-full review. So if you haven't seen it, you plan on seeing it, come back to this later. But for everybody else, since you had your kind of final warning, the one thing I'll immediately say right off the bat before we actually get into some of the nitty-gritty and our actual thoughts on it is don't listen to the critic reviews. You know, Rotten Tomatoes is not gospel, neither is Metacritic. Sometimes you gotta kind of just see something for yourself. And I know some people out there will be like, "Oh, Anthony, we know you're a big, like, huge Venom fan, so you're gonna be biased, for this." No. It's exactly the opposite. As much as I love Venom, if anything, I would be more critical than a lot of people would be considered. And you even heard me kind of like, at certain parts of the movie.
At certain parts of the movie, you were being very, level-headed about it. But I mean, even at the same time, I'm a big DC Comics person.
Yeah.
So to have a DC Comics person come in and go, I thoroughly enjoyed the movie, that's a pretty big thing for at least on my behalf.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that is exactly a shining endorsement. But for anybody who's unfamiliar, the whole idea of the Venom movie is you have basically the story of like Eddie Brock. He's this guy who's kind of has everything at first, and kind of everything just kind of gets torn away from just one bad day, a turn of bad events. And I feel the movie really did kind of nail at least somewhat of the personality, or at least the look of poor Eddie Brock. But they really did kind of make him kind of a dope. Wouldn't you agree? Like,
yeah. He really did have that kind of like stupid guy mentality, kind of brutish, like kind of like dude, kind of like dude bro kind of thing.
Believe it or not, even though like Eddie Brock in the comics was a huge weightlifter, he wasn't an idiot. He was actually quite intelligent, beside his massive thighs. But it was kind of weird because the whole thing with the dynamic with Venom was both some of the best parts of the film, but again, at least for me, from a comic book fan standpoint, especially a Venom fan, just the way he was so freaked out and even scared of the Venom symbiote doesn't really play well into the comic rendition. But I guess it makes more sense. I mean, if you had an alien symbiote bound to you,
especially something as terrifying looking as Venom, with like some of the scenes where Venom's face would actually like come out from his back and then looking at him directly while they're talking. It was a scary looking fucking thing, It was like a scary looking thing.
Those are actually, again, some of the best scenes, obviously, in my opinion, I think a lot of people would agree, are the scenes where we see those interactions between Eddie Brock and the Venom symbiote. Mm-hmm. But then, of course, you have like kind of the main villain. You have the Life Foundation, which is ran by Carlton Drake. And Riz Ahmed, I think, did a really good job as the villain. I kind of feel like you need to know the character in some of these arcs to enjoy it more. If you're not familiar with like Lethal Protector as a story arc, or even Planet of the Symbiotes, I can see how some moviegoers can be lost, and why even in some reviews it said like there's plot holes that weren't really like ever explained. Like, was there ever a moment where you kind of feel like you didn't know what the hell was going on?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I really, and I know little to nothing about Venom besides he's a cool guy. That's a cool looking character, really kind of very vicious kind of style to him. But otherwise than that, I really know nothing about Venom. So really, I didn't feel that, because at any point of the movie, at the point of the movie where they were trying to, or did describe, this is what the plan is. They laid it out very well. Venom bluntly told him he's going to go take the rocket, bring them back to devour your planet. Well, why? Because that's what we do. Okay, why did you change your mind? Because I like it here now. And it was really on the nose. It was really, it did tell you very bluntly that this is the story arc, this is what's going to happen.
And for anybody who is familiar with the comics and you were wondering where the tie-in for Planet of the Symbiotes was, that was it. Yeah. So, what's really cool, though, besides the action scenes and those interactions, was the references. Again, if you're a Marvel fan, especially a Venom fan like I am, see little things at the beginning, like the initial space ship crash. is a nod, and I even mentioned this in a video before on this channel about how how Venom can work without Spider-Man, is in the Spider-Man animated series. That's the introduction to the Venom symbiote, funny enough, is that space shuttle. They have the Venom symbiote on board. In this case, in the movie, they have multiple symbiotes on board, and it breaks out, kind of attacking the people in the spaceship, and that's why it crash lands into Earth.
Yeah.
And again, as far as cool Easter eggs, and I remember I was slapping you, like, oh my god. You hear a name of one of the astronauts that unfortunately died, and it was Jameson, as in John Jameson, the son of J. Jonah Jameson. This right here, I want pictures of Spider-Man. So that was like a great, or even like there's a scene where, just to show how down on his luck Eddie Brock is Ann's like, you got to be on your best behavior. We don't want another incident like the Daily Globe in New York. That's why you had to flee New York to come to San Francisco, which is a nod to the whole thing with Sin Eater. And funny enough, that was a Spider-Man kind of centric thing, so it's interesting to have them throw that in there.
Yeah, a lot of call-outs to Spider-Man, a lot of call-outs
without there actually being Spider-Man.
A lot of call-outs to the jumps without making it is Spider-Man going to show up during this movie kind of thing? Is that what's going to spark the movie up kind of thing? No, they definitely made it a Venom movie. Yeah. And I think that's what I thoroughly enjoyed about this. Like, my personal problem with the Spider-Man film was that it was like Iron Man 3.5 to me. It was a lot of Tony Stark in it for me. There was a lot. Yeah. There was a lot of Tony in that. So, like, I was sitting there and I was like, okay, this is a Spider-Man film. But this has so much Iron Man in it. It's really a collaboration movie where the Venom movie was solid Venom.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess the reason for that with Homecoming is because that was still considered an MCU film, where unfortunately, at least for now, this is a completely separate thing altogether. But I know people were talking about tonal issues. Like, I guess I can kind of see that, where scenes where some parts were kind of funny, whether they were meant to be or not. And then there's almost immediately you kind of were pulled into a scene that was a lot darker or more sinister. But, I mean, that's no different than I think a lot of the films we've kind of seen. Like
Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, your entire planet was destroyed. All your heritage and your entire country decimated. But hey,
piss off, Ghost.
Piss off, Ghost. So
yeah,
but that's kind of what Marvel does now. Marvel does, at least in their movie-wise. I mean, even though that this was a more Sony movie, but in collaboration with Marvel, that's just kind of the character of Marvel.
Some of the only disappointments I had, again, I'd say it was slightly the characterization of Eddie Brock and also Venom, because they were both the losers, the runts. The symbiotes, I think, and I mentioned this to you, the whole thing with Lethal Protector is these other symbiotes, at least 5 other symbiotes that originally were supposed to be the spawn of Venom, but instead it was Venom that was the runts and Riot was the leader. But even then, that wasn't too big of a deal. Again, that was more just a comic book nag. Mm-hmm. But my only fear is, so with seeing Riot with all these powers very similar to Carnage, one of the after-credit scenes, where you do have 2 after-credit scenes, you actually get to see Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy, and they actually do the whole mention of, you want to hear about the carnage, or when I get out, there's going to be so much carnage.
Yeah.
So I think that's great if they do get a sequel. However, the problem with Riot having a lot of the powers and abilities he had to begin with is I'm almost afraid that the second film is going to be a rehash of the fight with Venom and Riot. But I guess that's something we'll have to see. I really need to see more of Woody Harrelson as Cletus and what they can do with it.
I really do feel like the movie was kind of limited by its rating. That it was definitely trying to stick to a PG-13.
They tried so hard.
Where there's a scene where Riot made like his big blades and he just crossed an entire room and just like took out like 10 people.
Everybody just fell though.
But
like,
everybody fell.
No blood.
No blood.
It didn't make any sense.
Everybody just kind of fell. It was like they all got hit by like a cardboard box. It really wasn't like anything legit.
I agree with that. So originally, I even said that Venom does not need to be a PG, does not need to be a rated R film, because realistically, anybody who knows the character. Yes, he can sometimes murder. Yes, he definitely maims. there's never really enough violence from Venom himself to justify an R rating. But Riot, on the other hand, yeah, like shooting spikes at people, slitting throats, biting off heads.
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
I definitely feel like certain scenes definitely would have been better if it was rated R, and I know that is a constant.
Agreed. But you see, but that's going to be the issue, though, is if there is a sequel and Carnage makes his...
It has to be R.
Thing, it would have to be R.
It has to be R.
Because if it's not R, you're going to get a bunch of quick cuts away, or you're going to get a bunch of just absolute dumbed down things where Carnage... I mean, and I'm not even a big knowledge of the thing, but I have seen some, panels of Carnage, and he's messed up.
Yeah.
So if they decide, we're trying to still keep it in the Marvel universe or the possibility of a merge, it's really gonna bone over that next movie if they do get it. If they do a Carnage and Venom fight and they don't get to do or if they just have Carnage in there and Carnage can't be the vicious kind of thing. I mean, because Riot showed what viciousness and ruthlessness can do.
Exactly.
Well, Carnage is supposed to be, psychotic and crazy.
On top of all that.
On top of that. So, he's supposed to get creative with his kills, where Riot was more of a brute force kind of thing. So, if they don't shoot for a rated R for a Carnage...
It's going to be dead on arrival.
Yeah. There'll be no chance.
But, I mean, overall, again, some of the action scenes were great. The highlights of the film were definitely the scenes that had Eddie, Brock, and Venom interacting with one another, whether it be just in fights or even just walking down the street. Exactly.
Kind of thing.
People who are you talking to? Some of those were the best parts.
The elevator scene. That's probably going to jump quick, close in, and pussy.
Yeah, didn't even jump out the window. Instead, you just see him he does a quick cut and he says, "Get the elevator down."
Pussy.
So they're
that was funny.
Overall, what score out of 10 would you give Venom?
I'd put it at 7.5. As a person that doesn't know much about the comics, about a person that doesn't really know much about Venom, I genuinely enjoyed Venom. I thought it was really cool. The parts that really bugged me was definitely that they dumbed down a lot of the violent scenes so they can remain a PG-13 film, which is what bummed me out a lot. That scene of him taking out everybody in the room,
it doesn't make sense.
Killed me.
It doesn't make sense.
I saw that and I'm like, oh, that was so lame. That was such an easy cop-out. But also, as much as I did enjoy the Riot and Venom scene, the fight scene at the jet, it was a little mix-mashy.
Yeah, because it's pretty much the same color. You're like, who's fighting?
Yeah, exactly. But it was a dark environment. They had a lot of amber lighting because of the lights that were on the rails. The rails were falling apart, so there's a lot of metal being twisted on top of Riot and Venom intertwining themselves. Then you got both of the characters of the symbiotes are...
Riz Ahmed and Tom Hardy and Carlton Drake and Eddie Brock, them fighting each other.
They're fighting each other while the symbiotes are fighting with that. It was just a lot to look at. And don't get me wrong, I know that's how a lot of the Venom and Carnage and kind of things, symbiote fights go down because it's a lot of intertwining.
Yeah.
But I think visually...
They usually stay more solid.
Yeah. It looked like somebody took 2 cups of water and went like that and be like, animate that. That's what I picked up off that.
That's a good description. As far as my score for it, I know a lot of people are going to think, oh, it's Anthony, it's Venom, he loved it, he's going to get a high score. Funny enough, I'd have to agree with you of exact scoring, as a matter of fact. A 7.5 for this film. I definitely think it's at least going to the theater once to see it. I think it'd be a good experience. Definitely, in my head, it was very enjoyable to me. Even as the comic book fan and the certain things that kind of bugged me knowing the comics, I still had a lot of fun with it. I definitely think that they did a much better job than I honestly thought was going to happen, especially once I heard it was PG-13 and seeing some of the other stuff. And definitely much better than what a lot of the critics were kind of saying in the score overall. But yeah, that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. We hope it was very informative as far as whether you should go out and see it yourself or you're going to go ahead and give it a pass. But thanks always for joining us. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all the other social media we have listed down below. Follow us on Twitch for random live streams throughout the week. And, of course, if you want to help us grow, head over to our Patreon and become a supporter today.